All right, so the first thing you need to do is you need to define your targeting criteria. Choose the qualities that are the most important to you. Because basically we want to begin with the end in mind. And before we just go into LinkedIn and start building a list, we want to decide like, okay, who do we actually want to focus on in this outreach campaign? And write it down on a piece of paper in a Google Doc, doesn't really matter, but just try to define the main elements. When we get into LinkedIn, there's going to be a lot of filters I'll show you that are pretty cool, but ultimately I just want to explain some of the most important ones that you need to know and have clarified before you dive into it. First would be the job title. So just think of the job titles that you want to reach out to. Again, if you have two very different job titles, like two very different departments, such as owner, and then like operations manager, those should really be in two different campaigns because you would speak differently to those two people. So clarify like what are the job titles that I want to reach out to first. You can have more than one job title in a campaign, but they need to be very like close, so maybe owner and co-owner and co-founder, etc. But it needs to be, similar in the company. Next one would be industry. So decide, what industries you want to reach out to in this campaign. And then the third most important one would be the company size. Because like I said earlier, a company that has 10 employees operates so differently than a company that has 100 or 200 or 2,000 employees. So you really want to be, clear on that and have that decided ahead of time. Again, there's a lot more characteristics that can go into building a list. This is really where your ICP and buyer persona worksheet you created earlier will come into play. So you want to have that up when you're building your actual list. But those three characteristics I mentioned are really the most important. Every time you want to make sure you're clear on those three. And then any other search filters or criteria that can be dependent on what you're doing. But always make sure that the job title, the industry, and the company size are specific ahead of time. Now, some other best practices and tips I can give you for when you're actually building your list. One is, again, analyze past clients. That's going to be the best source of information. If you've already served clients in the past, then you already should have an idea for like who was great to work with, who was easy to sell to, who was able to pay you what you wanted, right? And you might have also an idea of what clients weren't great to work with or what clients were more difficult. So again, really take the time to think through, all the past clients you've had and who were the best to work with overall, and try to define your characteristics like company size and job titles from that. And again, if your business is new, it's all good. You'll experiment with it, and once you have some more clients, you'll be able to start to see and really hone in on who the best clients are. Next tip would be have very different messaging for different personas. So again, you wouldn't speak to the owner of a company the same way you would talk to like a marketing director or a project manager. So again, if your lists are very, very different, your personas are very different, they need different messaging because each of those people, they have different language, different personalities, they care about different things, they have different problems. So it's very important that you don't have a lot of different people, a lot of different companies all on one list. They should be pretty close together. And the main reason for that is because when you really have a specific person in mind, it's much easier to write and talk about very specific issues or challenges or goals that are going to really resonate with them. And they're going to feel like, oh wow, this person really gets me. This person really knows what I'm dealing with. And the last tip about building your list is that the larger the company is, the less likely you're going to be speaking to like the owner or someone at C-level or a director. So if it's a small business under 50 employees, you're probably talking to the owner or some kind of director. But when it goes pretty far beyond that, it's less likely, and you're probably talking to mid-level management. Again, if you've had past clients, just think of like what their title was, the one that ultimately made the decision. But if not, you'll just go through some experimentation for a little bit, and then you'll figure out over time who's the best job title to reach out to. All right, guys, that's it. Those are some best practices to keep in mind. Now, in the next lesson, we're going to go into actually building your list. So let's get to it.